explore the world using map, and together with her cousin, they go. Okay. Next is hypothesis testing. Here you have to prove something if your hypothesis is correct or null. Next slide, please, ma'am. Okay, so we have competencies and learning outcomes. So sometimes they mischange the word, but definitely they are different. So competencies and learning outcomes are two related educational terms that can create confusion. Competencies and outcomes can be written to describe the learning gained by students in individual courses, course outcomes, or for the program as a whole or the program outcomes. They do not mean the same thing. So I'll explain it later on the next slide. Ma'am, please. Okay, so competency is a general statement that describes the desired knowledge, skills, and behaviors of a student graduating from a program. Competency is commonly defined the applied skills and knowledge that enable people to successfully perform in professional, educational, and other life contexts. Actually, in English, we bombard our students with so many competencies. In fact, who among you can answer me and I'll be giving you chocolates? Just kidding. Okay. About the 8 competencies that we have in English. Okay. So we have literature, we have reading comprehension, we have vocabulary, we have grammar, we have listening, we have oral language and fluency, we have writing, and we have viewing skills. So as much as possible, we want to give the best to our learners, but we know that it is impossible that you're going to give all those competencies in only one meeting. So that is why we have to focus nowadays about the most essential learning outcome. So what is outcome? So outcome is a very specific statement that describes exactly what the student will be able to do in some measurable way. There may be more than one measurable outcome defined for a given competency. So competency in Filipino, correct me if I'm wrong, fellow teachers, this refers to kakayahan or skills. And then the outcome, it refers to the kinalabasan of their skills. Okay, thank you. Next slide, ma'am. By the way, I'll be entertaining questions or later. So let's proceed to the process of identifying the most essential learning competencies or MELC. Do not ask me about this one or the IPO, etc. All I know is that I copied this and pasted this to the idea of our USEC. Okay, K-12 curriculum guide. This one serves as our Bible. Every time we do the writing of our DLL, you have to check for the CZ. As well, for example, you're a writer, you have to anchor all the lessons in our CG. And then with that, they made an essential learning competencies that our students need to learn. And because of our present situation today, they come up with a most essential competencies. We don't have to bombard our students with so many activities to do. Wherein almost everything nowadays are very stressful. You agree with me? Okay. For those who won't agree, I won't be giving you. I will request Vibal not to give you any certificates. Just kidding. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay. So this is one example of the English um, competencies wherein there is LC from K to 12 English curriculum guide. When it's merged, you can see there EN for LC or listening comprehension or skills or skills. Okay. the note details in literary text, listen to. Another one, note details in a selection, listen to. Another one, note details by asking, answering questions about a stories or poem. And EL4RC, note significant details in a literary text. So you see, there are what we call overlapping of skills. You can see there on the listening comprehension and on the reading comprehension, there are almost same skills. So the retail or rephrased as melts are no significant details of their use. Okay, various text types. And on the justification, as I have mentioned, they don't want to repeat and repeat almost the same skills. As you can see, we're talking only about noting details, noting important details. But on the previous curriculum guide, you can see there that the noting details can be seen on the listening comprehension and then at the same time at the reading comprehension. So what they did on the MELS is that they try to avoid what we call overlapping. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's have the teaching strategies. I know that you're very much familiar with the teaching strategies because if you are not, I think you're not a teacher or an educator like me. Okay, so first is clear lesson goals. How are you going to do that? Um, Clear lesson goals. Okay. So in a clear lesson goals, it should be clear. Clear about the things that you wanted to do or the goal that you want your students need to acquire. It should be vivid for them to understand all your directions, all the stuff or things that you want them to cater. Okay. Next, second is show and tell. I remind me of this show and tell with Sir Ryan because he used to say to his students that there should be show and tell. True enough. Okay. In the show and tell your students what they need to know and show them what they need to be able to do so. Of course, as a teacher, we have to show first how it is done, especially in science, okay? Especially in TLE. How do you think your students will learn if you yourself do not do the cooking stuff? Okay, somewhat synonymous to writing poem. How can you write poem if you yourself have difficulty on writing it? Okay, so next is questioning to check for understanding. So definitely most of the times we always ask our students if they understand the lesson after the reading selection. Then sometimes after it there is what we call throwing question, the art of questioning to them, and then you're going to use the HOTS. Okay, use questions to check that your students really understand the lesson. Next slide, please. Okay. So next is summarize new learning in a graphical way. So have students summarize new information in a graphical way. Sometimes you will be surprised because your students are much better than us. Admit it or not. Okay. Next, number five, plenty of practice. Give your students plenty of practice so that they have mastery of lesson before proceeding to another learning competency. Not necessarily too hard exercises, but it depends on the level of your students. If, for example, your learner is slow, give him not that difficult exercises. Next, number six, provide your students with feedback. Okay, how important feedbacking is. Okay, use feedbacking so that they can refine their works and efforts. Not necessarily you're going to do that in a negative way, wherein you're going to tell them, excuse me, you're going to tell them that their work are all trashes. Okay, instead of doing that, try to motivate them. Try to say that next time I expect that your work is much better. So you have to convince that they can do better on next time, next activity that you are going to give them. Next is be flexible about how long it takes to learn. There is no time frame for them. The most important thing is they learn. Is there anyone here who's guilty of they need to finish the book? Raise your hand, though I cannot see you on the screen of my cell phone. Anyone? So why? Because you want to finish your syllabus. You want to finish your book. But the point is, or the question is, do you think that the students really learn? Of course not. Admit it or not, there are students who are fast learner, there are average and slow learner. And as a teacher, you have to be flexible and you need to know as much as possible all the learners. Next slide, please. Okay. Next is number 8. Get students working together. Okay, so we know that today it's quite impossible because of our present condition. But remember, through the use of online, they could able to work together. Okay, working together, they can do group works, not necessarily through face to face, but as I have mentioned, through online. They could able to share thoughts, ideas, through Messenger or through Skype or through email. We know that students also are flexible, just like teachers. And so, sometimes you will also be surprised that your students are much abreast with the use of technology. Wherein, unlike me, wherein I need someone to assist me, to help me, especially my kids, asking them to do PowerPoint presentation like this one. Okay, next is teach strategies, not just content. How important the strategies are rather than content. Content definitely is important. It's really, really important. But of course, the question is, how are you going to make that content nicer? Nicer, wherein they would enjoy, they would have fun, and at the same time, they know the strategy, the means of ways of doing that content. Okay, next is number 10, nurture metacognition. So, what is metacognition? Anyone? I know that I have students here before and now teachers, and they are familiar with metacognition. So, metacognition is about thinking about thinking. Example, in terms of reading a selection, one can ask or assess herself or himself in terms of metacognition. Do I understand the story that I have read? What if, for example, I do not understand the lesson? So that is an example of nurturing metacognition. So you need to be ready for that. Not only teachers, but also the learners. Next slide, please, ma'am. Okay, so I have here, I know that all of you are familiar with the sample DLL, and I do not know if we are going to use the same, but I think this one will be revised because of our condition, the new normal. So in English, we have so many competencies. I want you to look on the competencies there on the first column. I'm having difficult time reading it. And then on the second column, the Tuesday, there is also almost the same learning competencies. And then on Wednesday and then Thursday. Of course, during Friday, we don't have any meeting. Maybe it's on the time of the implementation of what we call ICL, where sometimes you have chance to pull out your students who are participants of your action research. I myself is guilty of this. Okay, next slide, ma'am. Okay. So again, so the usual, there are procedures. We're in, okay, the step by step, how are you going to teach this to our students? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Next slide. Okay. So again, the procedures. So here sometimes, do you give everyday activities? Okay, everyday activities. Sometimes what they did, students used to procrastinate. Mom, it's already time, and I'm quite guilty with this. I let them enjoy the time until they finish the activity. So you can see on the next day, it will reflect on my lesson plan or DLL that to be continued, just to allow my students to enjoy. Okay, next slide, ma'am. Thank you. Okay. So almost the same. And then this one, the reflection. I want an honest answer. You really take time to answer your reflection. You really monitor them. How many learners or um, how many learners have acquired the skill, etc., etc. Can you pinpoint among them? Really? Okay, because if you will ask me, I just think of the section and then try to recall who among the learners are being left behind. And then, of course, if I have time, there is remediation when I used to call them, and then we're going to do some activities in the faculty if I have spare time. But if not, I'll focus on the next lesson of my grade 9. Okay, next, please. Okay, so this is now the milk. What did you observe, or what can you say about milk? Excuse me. Okay, so I want you to look at it very, very close. Okay, actually, I'm having hard time of reading. Okay, okay. So as you can see on the most essential learning competencies, there are only four competencies on quarter one. There are only two competencies on quarter two. There are three competencies on quarter three and only two competencies in quarter four. Unlike before, there is what we call overlapping of the learning competencies as we viewed earlier. And then at the same time, what we did or what they did is that they decongest the learning competencies. Instead of bombarding those students, so many learning competencies that we want to give to our learners, we try to give them all. But here, you have to focus on the most essential learning competencies. Okay, so allow me to read the content of quarter one. Okay, on quarter one, express permission, obligation, and prohibition using modals. I know that some of you are teaching modals. Okay, next, quarter one again, use conditionals in expressing arguments. After this, vocabulary or jargons expected of a communicative style. So at the same time, we are preparing our students to have a wider vocabulary so that they could also use that in their oral communication skill once they converse with someone, especially in the near future. Next is employ again the appropriate communicative styles of various situations. So there are types wherein they're going to use different communicative style whenever they are going to talk with their friends, whether they are going to talk with their future bosses, whether they are going to talk to their friends, whether they're going to talk with their parents. So those are the different communicative styles. Excuse me. Next is on the second quarter, we have relate text content to particular social issues, concerns, or dispositions in real life. So remember that these competencies, we are just preparing our students in applying what they have learned from the four corner of our classroom. Next is analyze literature as a means of understanding unchanging values in the volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous world. Wherein sometimes we are having hardest time in understanding our learners, but we have to be abreast. We have to embark on what they think is correct. But it depends that if it talks about values, it is also different thing. Okay, next is quarter three, differentiate basis from prejudices. So as you remember yung sa Itbulaga, okay, judgmental ka ba? So most of us are really judgmental and conclusive at the same time without any basis. But we of course try to eliminate them. We try to avoid being biased or being prejudiced and try to differentiate the difference between the two. Next is determine the relevance and truthfulness of ideas presented in the material viewed. What do you think is based on these competencies? It is about the viewing skills or viewing comprehension. So you're going to ask something, maybe through watching video blog, and then you're going to have some questions being thrown to your students. But of course, try to elicit first the prior knowledge so that they won't have any difficulties. Okay, and then of course, after eliciting the prior knowledge, you're not going to say it's wrong. It's up to them. Let them discover about what is really correct on what they have known since time immemorial. There is no such thing as tabula rasa. I know that you're familiar with that. Okay, next is judge the validity of the evidence listened to. So this one, it should be always based on facts. Okay, not on hearsay. Next, quarter four. We are already on the quarter four. Judge the relevance and worth of ideas, soundness of author's reasoning, and the effectiveness of the presentation. So here, you're going to be a judger. Just kidding. Okay. So you have to think critically in terms in terms of the presentation of the writer. Okay. Example, Rose for Emily. I really love that story. I know that some of you also love that. Okay. Next is react to lay value judgment on critical issues that demand sound analysis and call for prompt actions. So what is the key word here? Value judgment, critical issues, analysis, and then after it, an action. Remember that in any problem, there are always possible solutions, and you have to look for the best solutions. Okay. Next slide, please, ma'am. Okay. So I have here some sample activities wherein, to be honest, I only copied and pasted this on the internet. Okay, so this one could help you. And speaking of some activity sheets, I would also like to inform everyone that Vibal, they also have this um, activity sheets wherein you could do that at home, learn at home, okay, by Vibal. There are so many test booklets available, and I don't know if how much is this the learn at home. I can really commend with this because I have seen some of the activity sheets and it is suited for different type of learners. Okay, thank you, ma'am. Another slide. Okay, so word classes, again, another sample activity sheets. Okay, another one, please, ma'am. Okay, so the spelling word maze. So again, as I have said, it's up to you whether you're going to download it from the net, whether you are going to use the Learn at Home by Vibal. It's up to you being a teacher. We can see how resourceful we are in giving what is best to our students. Okay, so next slide, ma'am. Now let's proceed to the learning task. Okay, so what is learning task? Learning tasks are the concrete, authentic, whole task experiences similar to complex real world problems. So there are examples of learning tasks. Actually, there are so many, but I only have here six examples. Okay, the first example is blogging. So blogging is a blog or a publication mechanism like a journal or bulletin. Okay, blogs can promote open dialogue and encourage community building in which both the bloggers and commenters exchange opinions, ideas, and attitudes. Actually, I also asked some students to do the video blogging. Okay. Then at the same time, their oral communication skills will also be developed, and then the confidence. Next is e-portfolio. Okay, so this one is a typical portfolio, but the difference is it is just electronic. Okay, and then at the same time, the students can able to make e-portfolio through doing some files, okay? And then at the same time, it is easier wherein it's stated that it's not paper-based anymore. But the problem is the internet connection. Okay. Next is essay. So this one is the old learning task that we ask our students to have. Essay. So essay is a document that has a defined structure. What are the defined structures? Okay, in terms of essay, it has three parts. Wherein the introduction, of course, the body, and the conclusion. It is always the three parts of an essay. I think I don't need to elaborate the introduction, the body, or conclusion. I think there are more teachers better than I am in terms of doing this stuff, the essay, etc., etc. Hi, Doc Langa. Okay, thank you. Ma'am, next slide. Okay, another is what we call online quizzes. So this one, it's not new. Okay, I know that most of the students already familiarize themselves with the use of online quizzes. Okay. So online quizzes at the same time, um, they could able to check their work. It's up to you whether you want to construct or to make your own online quizzes for your students. It's up to you. Okay. Or if you want, you can use other websites and then just submit the grade to you, something like that. Okay, but if you wanted to be authentic, okay, I think self-teacher made online quizzes is much better because remember that you know your students, okay, their capabilities. Next is reflective journal. Okay, so reflective journal is a personal record of a student's learning experiences. Here on the reflective journal, when I was at the seminary, I don't know who among them have this reflective journal. At the end of each lesson, they're going to write what they have learned. Okay, but it is quite dangerous on the part of the teacher. What if the student wrote, "I did not learn anything"? I did that recently this school year. And then to my surprise, what the students did, they only copied my lecture. So it's not reflective of journal. I told my students, no, anak, you have to think, what are the things that you've learned from me? Not necessarily that you're going to copy everything. It's not reflective journal. Okay. Next is photography. Okay, photography. Okay, in photography, composition, okay, is arrangement of parts of a scene from a particular visual outcome. Okay, from the word photographs. We know that some students are very fond of doing photography. If I'm not mistaken, there is a contest in that end wherein a part of it is photography. I'm not that familiar with that, but I think Ma'am Pat she is. Okay, she's the expert on this. Okay, next is mind maps. Okay, a mind map is a diagram used to visually organize information. Mind map is different from concept map. Okay, so the concept map, there is interconnection with the idea of each other. Okay. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so how to align these learning tasks to MELC? Okay. First is identify the learning target. What is the learning target? Okay. So you have to familiarize with the grade, level, content, standard, and then you have to chunk it. Not necessarily, I have to give all this content standard. And then later on, the performance standard, whether they are not ready or not, they need to perform. Okay. Remember that everything will be in futile if they are not familiar with the learning target that you need from them. Next is determine the cognitive complexity of the unpacked targets. So this one, according to Bloom's taxonomy, you should be research based. Okay, wherein almost everything is research. I still remember, okay, of the record, research it's not important. Okay, sorry, research is our life today, especially in this pandemic. If no one is doing research, how would this virus would end up? Okay, so we need to research what is the best vaccine if there would be any vaccine. Okay, thank you, Micah Hill. Okay, if there would be a vaccine, it should be research, always on research. Next is, oh my, okay, so for a while. Next is, okay, so where am I? So next is, determine what evidence we will need students to produce. Here, what does this target look like and sound like in terms of success? Okay. So we need evidence. Evidence wherein it is really our students who did the task. Sometimes they will tell you, I did it myself. And then if you will ask him or her, if you will ask him or her, he cannot or she cannot demonstrate it to you well. Because it's not our learner who did that, but sometimes it is their parents. Maybe it's just okay, but with the guidance of the parents. But today, of course, parents are very responsible. Okay, parents are responsible in educating their children. We need to work hand in hand. Unlike before, it is always the teachers are blamed for doing things that their children did inside the classroom. It's always the teachers. How I wish that next time it will be their joke. Okay. Next is number 4. Design a task that requires students to produce evidence at the complexity level of the standard. Okay. So I know that you're familiar with the level, right? The easy, average, difficult. But today we're not going to focus about more on the level, how difficult the level is. Okay. But remember, we are going to cater only the most essential, wherein it will be beneficial to them as learners. Sometimes you can say that it's stressful, but try to avoid those words stressful, especially to our work. Because remember that we educators, we teachers really play an important role in molding the future of our students. Okay, next. Next, ma'am. Okay, so online, okay. Plan the structure of the task. Okay, okay. Plan the structure of the task. The question is, will the students complete the task independently? Okay. Or do you think that the students need the help of their group? Or do you think that the students need to work in pair? So the TOPS, the total, the work alone, the dyadic exchange, and then the small group discussion. But of course, small group discussion, they can do that only online. Okay. Next is determine teacher actions. So how about here? Oh, yeah, this one is on the part of the teacher. The question is, how will I prepare formative assessment? How would I prepare my students in doing the learning task well? Is there a need for scaffolding so that the students could able to grasp the lesson? So here, many teachers I know that are competent enough doing this scaffolding, doing the art of questioning, the hats, etc., etc. Wherein I believe that we can. Okay. So in terms of the question now is, how are you going to align this task to milk? I have here an example. Actually, I was not able to type this. Okay. I was not able to type this because my plan is just to share it with you. Okay, so example of the learning task is reflective essay. So in the reflective essay, my competency here is taken from quarter two. It states that relate text content to particular social issues, concerns, or dispositions in real life. So, for example, I have given a reading selection, reading by Jose Rizal. Of course, before I discuss, let's say if it is Filipino, let's say Noli Me Tangere.
Before I discuss Noli Me Tangere, I need to familiarize my students with Jose Rizal. And what was the social milieu when Jose Rizal wrote Noli Me Tangere? And then after that, once they are already familiar, acquainted themselves with the social milieu, I want to know if they could able to relate that in the present issue, whether it is social issue, whether it is a disposition in life or making decision, apply it to real life situation. I will ask them to write a reflective essay. Reflective essay wherein I align that with the competence in quarter number two. Okay. So thank you, fellow teachers, for listening. How I wish that you've learned something from my presentation for today. Thank you very much. Okay po. Yes, ma'am. Okay. So we have question number one. Lucky Evardome. Okay. Nawala po, ma'am. Okay. In our case, how will be able to administer group work? Okay. Okay. So the question I think is more on group work, right? So is it really possible? Especially we try to limit the face-to-face meeting with our students. So how it is done? I think with the use of this Zoom or Messenger, I think some students, especially in private school, it's not a problem. The problem may arise, I think also, I think, in public school, wherein, admitted or not, some of the students, they do not have cell phone, but they could be able to play Mobile Legends, ironically, right? Okay, they could able to have group work through the use of Facebook, through the use of Messenger. Hi, Casey. Thank you for watching. How I wish that I was able to answer the question of Sir in terms of group work. Yeah, definitely it's difficult because we cannot address all the problems in that ed. But whether we like it or not, we have to embrace the system, the new normal. I know that it is really impossible. Yeah. Especially if the students are really living from outskirts area or far flung area of cities. So I think the resourcefulness of the teacher is needed. Bakit po sa high school talagang na-lessen or reduced ang competencies? Sa elementary po, parang buo pa din ang from week 1 to 10 per quarter. Final na po ba yun? Actually, hello Sir Ron Bugay. Thank you for asking. Actually, hindi pa po totally polished lahat. Hello, EJ! Hindi pa po polished lahat. Pero, meron naman po. Okay? Meron naman po yung most essential learning competencies. But of course, it's not yet, I think it's not yet final. So, they are not yet giving it to us. But of course, we have the access because of this talk. Okay. Uh, Another question. Okay, Casey, I'll answer it. Okay. Okay. So, ma'am, where are you? Okay, Reynaldo Tagala. As per list in the mail provided by DepEd, okay, each quarter, okay, I think I'm lost. Okay, okay. As per list in the mail, okay, ma'am, okay, messenger. Okay, Reynaldo Tagala, as per list in the mail provided by DepEd, each quarter there is only one competency per week, correct? Does this mean that subject teacher need only to hold class once in a week in his her specific subject? Okay, I think I'm not the person in authority to answer that question. Okay, because as I have mentioned, there is no specific guidelines. Correct me again if I'm wrong. There is no specific guidelines given by DepEd, but they only have this proposal in the most essential learning competencies. I think the most important thing here is if the students really grasp the lesson, then it is time for them or for you to give another self-directive lesson. Remember in public, we have so many self-learning kits, right? We have SEAM, we have CIP, we have action research. So it's up to you how are you going to give them or teach them or coach them or guide them or facilitate them in doing the said activities. Remember that it is very minimal on the face-to-face learning. How I wish, Sir Reynaldo, I was able to answer your question. I myself, I cannot answer it, a yes or no. So now let us proceed to the next question from Herbs from her Herbs Briones. How do we unpack this MELC to elicit tasks in fulfilling the content and performance tasks? Performance standards. Learn as one PH. Okay. So actually, there is no such thing as one size fits all. You know you're a learner, isn't it? So you have to think for a learning task that is best for your students to learn. Okay, but you have to anchor it again with what we call the content standard, the performance standard. But as I have said, doing the DLL, DepEd will also, I think, revise some part of it. Okay, thank you, sir. Herbs Billones. Next, Florence Feliciano. Okay, what is the maximum class size for online? Thank you. Okay. I think online, I'm not very particular with this. The number of students or class size. Sorry, ma'am or sir, Sir Florence. I'm not very familiar in terms of the class size. Okay. Next, Rebecca Dumlao. Magkakaroon din po ba ng most essential learning competencies sa senior high school major subjects, specifically sciences? Yes, magkakaroon po. Actually, meron na po eh. Meron na po. You can download it to our website. Meron na po. But there are still subjects na wala pa po. Okay, next question. How can we know that the level of complexity of tasks that we design is aligned to cognitive level of our students knowing our situation now? So that is the big question. Okay. So in terms of cognitive level, the terms of complexity, whether it is easy, average, difficult, are you going to give them first the easy task? Okay, and then align it to the capability of your students. Remember that we have to use scaffolding. You're not going to give them activities wherein it's very difficult. You're going to start with the first step. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Next. Okay. Actually, di ba, we know how stressful it is to teach. Doing so many paperworks. Are you going to give our students the same complexity? Wherein we can able to enjoy at the same time. Let your students enjoy at the same time. Wherein do not think or making things too complicated. Let us make things simpler as possible because we know that there are so many problems that we need to face nowadays. Okay. From Rainy Lou V. Fugaban, spiral pa rin po ba ang curriculum? How I wish, kaya ko pong sagutin. Kasi po, ang alam ko po, ang dati po natin, spiral, right? For especially in science na nakakalito. First grading, I think it's um, general science. Second grading, is biology, third grading is chemistry, and fourth grading is physics, right? That's spiral. So I do not know if DepEd will also observe the spiral progression in our curriculum. Okay. But how about you, Ma'am Rainey? If I'll ask you, you want spiral? Okay. Next, April Ruby, Rosana. Do we need to teach every literature in the English learners module? It's up to you, ma'am. Since you know the capabilities of your students. If you will ask me, sometimes I skip. Okay? Sometimes I skip some literature. Why? Are they going to apply those literature in real life situation? Just select, just select. Select selections wherein you think that the students need. Just select, ma'am. Just select. Not necessarily you have to follow everything. You know your students, you know the capability of your students. But today it's different, right? Wherein it's more on at home. Maybe, I said maybe, okay? If it is possible, if really possible, you can give your students everything in English learners module, but have you ever asked yourself, if you were on the shoes of your students, what would be your reaction? Okay. Last question na po ito. Okay. Dexter Villadares. Question, ma'am. What are the effects of online learning to students? Learning students. Okay. Online learning to students. I think first it will cause confusion. Like me today, I'm a little bit confused. I do not know whether I will be looking here or down here. Okay. So not necessarily they will be 101% confused, but with the guidance of a very efficient and effective teacher like us. Okay. So like us, everybody, like us, I believe that nothing is impossible. Sorry, Casey, I was not able to answer your question. I'll just PM you. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. I hope you learned something from me. Um, enjoy your day and God bless us all. Thank you very, very much to my students, to our fellow teachers. Hello, everyone. God bless us all. Thank you. Bye-bye. Keep safe. God bless us. Ingat palagi.